talking a little Michigan basketball here. Wolverines on the road today. They end up losing to Purdue in West Lafayette. We're ready to talk about an 82-76, the final. Jim Scarcelli, Dennis Fithian, and Scar. This was a game Michigan was down by 6 at the half. They cut it to 1, and from there, Purdue kept making some plays, but late in this game, five points with 5 to go, and had to make some plays down the stretch. But that's the number 4 team in the country, maybe the best team in the Big Ten, and Michigan comes away with a 6-point loss.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think they're the best team in the Big Ten. They got good players, man. This Ivy kid is something. They got 2 big guys that are tough on the low block. They got shooters. I think Michigan gave a good effort. I think our guys are trying hard. They're playing hard. We needed to play perfect, though. We had too many turnovers. Down the stretch, we had turnovers, too many dumb passes. We let guys, get second shots. We needed to play a darn near perfect game to beat them. But they just, they got experience, man. They got guys that have been around. You can just see so much depth, and they got guys that can score from all different parts of the floor. They spread you out, man. They make you defend the 3-point line. The kind of team we had last year, they really make you defend the 3, and then they got guys on the low block, and then they bring in the best guy, best 6-man in the Big Ten off the bench. So it's tough. I thought Michigan's coaches with the zone, I thought, it was a pretty decent scheme, but Purdue started to figure some things out and really made us pay later on in that zone.
Yeah, Dickinson was awesome. He's really got it going, and he would have had to make some big-time plays down the stretch. Him and Devontae Jones, they're late. There was a ball that ended up, you hate to see it down at his feet there, or him not being able to connect there and maybe knock down one of those threes. This was the first game where I watched Dickinson, and I know he's been stepping back, and I know he'll shoot threes, but it was really the first time where I thought this was a game like, wow, man, this new Hunter Dickinson in his sophomore season where he really can depend on the outside jumper. This was the first game where it felt like it was dangerous to me, like that outside shot. Like I didn't mind seeing him shoot it. And, we'll see where that goes, in the days and weeks ahead here. But, yeah, they're close if they could get, a little bit more from Caleb Houston. Devontae Jones had a pretty good game. They get a little bit more from the bench. Brandon Johns hitting another 3 or coming up with another player. Kobe Buffkin, those guys in the first half, each of them hit a 3, came in there. It was like, okay, they get a little bit more of that, here as February wears on. They're going to see Purdue again in 5 days. I'm sure the Boilers are going to be working a lot on that. You mentioned the matchup zone. Also, whether it was a 3-quarter court when Jace Howard came in, he was spearheading it, or the announcers kept calling it a full court. Maybe it was a full court. It looked like they were picking him up 3 quarters, but it threw him off a little bit. That seemed like it got Michigan going. That defense turned to offense a little bit.
Jace Howard is he's a much better athlete than I thought he was last year. The kid's fast. He's quick on his feet. He's a heck of a defender, and that has been pretty good with him. That's it's really close to full court press, but they pick them up. It gets them late into their shot clock. Sometimes we get a turnover, but Hunter was outstanding, and I think I give the kid credit, man. He really worked on his pass, on his shooting over from last year to this year. I think games like today really helped that kid advance his draft stock. I think when Edey was covering him, when they had the 7'4" kid on him, Hunter was stepping out, and that's where Edey's a liability. But when Travion was on him, that's when Hunter had a little more success on the low block, and it would be harder for him to get a good shot off. You're showing some footage here. Yeah, some good ball movement, getting people up in the air. That was, that's all starts with Brooks driving. Anytime you get a guy driving, we were on the other end of that so many times with Ivy. Jaden Ivy, that kid can do everything. He goes to the hole. He looks like Michael Jordan, man. I don't want to compare many people to Michael Jordan, but boy, does he take it to the hole. And then here's Hunter with Edie covering him, and Hunter has a rough time really doing his low block, hook shot type stuff against him. And he's better off stepping out like that. And that's exactly what you get, because that's the weakness of a kid like Edie is, stepping away from the basket defending. And now, go ahead, Danny. But then against here,
at one point they called him, they nicknamed him the Glacier. Edie is 7'4", so maybe that means you can take him out there and that's tough for Hunter. Usually he's the guy that's looking down at everybody. He has to look up at Edie, and then they bring in, like you mentioned, the best six man in the league, Travion Williams, who then he'll lean on you a little bit, and he's got some post moves. But yeah, look at this outside Jay. Fear from Hunter. It's looking better and better. And he's shooting it more confidently, and that looked pretty pure right there.
Yeah, that's Edie covering him, and he's a liability now. That's where Edie is a liability, is trying to defend the 3-point line. And if Hunter looks like a Bill Lambier type of deal going. If he could step out and make threes, he can be a pro player. That's crucial for him. That he's got a nice little low game, but that's tough to do in the NBA. But he's got to have that, and we need that. Michigan needs this right here, because when you have the big, and that's a terrible nickname. I would not want to be called the Glacier, but
no.
I heard what's his name at halftime? The old UCLA. What's his name? Lavin. Yeah. I really like listening to Lavin. He's great to listen to. He knows basketball, boy. He explains things, and he's right on time. But that's some great footage, and I think Michigan did a pretty good job of exploiting what we could when we could. But Purdue just got they just got too many players, man. They just got some good players. They've been around. Stefanovic, he comes out there. You can't ever leave him at the 3-point line, and because of that, he opens up so much for Purdue in the lane. He opens up the driving for Ivy. But I thought our zone did some good things. I kind of liked it when we started out, but it hurts you a little bit defensively sometimes with rebounding. What are you showing here? Now you got Michigan.
A little bit more Jaden Ivey. They kept throwing this high screen and roll, and he gets. You talk about Jordan, like he gets. He takes the ball and he's pretty quick from the the top of the lane here. He gets the screen and he's coming at you full blast.
Oh yeah, I mean that. He looks like Jordan, that he finishes at the rim then too. He's fast enough to get by and create. And then he can finish at the rim. The team is frustrating. One stretch, they looked the team we thought they were, and the other stretch, deers in the headlight. Yeah, he's right, man. It was so frustrating at the end, because we got the thing to within 5 points, and then we have the turnovers at the end. Hunter kicks it off his leg, and then the pass from Jones. Just frustrating. Yeah, we got to have guys that can finish, man. You got to have guys that can finish in crunch time, and it just didn't happen today.
Yeah, you were commenting on the feedback from Andre, who says this team is frustrating. One stretch, they look like a good team. We thought they were. Other stretches, they look like a deer in headlights. And yeah, I think execution and, I think the part that they struggle with is, something that, we say repeatedly here, is that they don't really have guys that you can just throw the ball. Like Jaden Ivey, you get him a screen and, he can really do some damage. And, you're mentioning the 3 seniors. You've talked about them a little bit. Eric Hunter didn't really do a whole lot there for Purdue today, but Stefanovic, you can't leave him open, but he put it on the ground a couple times, took it to the hoop, had some layups, and Travion Williams. I mean, those are 3 seniors, and, 2 of them really contributed today. I mean, that's what you're looking for. And, we'll see, like if they come back and play a similar type game today and can get a little bit more help, they started out slow there, but I think they found some things like, that this is a game where you think about Purdue in 5 days, Michigan, and they want to go to the tournament. They got to win this game. They have to, going into the game today, they needed to go 7-4. Now they have to go 7-3. They've got 10 games left. They can only lose 3 more games. So they got Penn State on Tuesday. Then they got Boilers coming in on Thursday. They got to win those 2 games.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about guys that can finish it, and do something on their own. So many times, and I've talked this about, we just don't take charges like we have in the past, and I don't understand why. And then we were on the wrong end of charges. Jones had 2 of them. He beats his guy to the hole. We get a chance to finish, and then they step up and take the charge, and that was a little discouraging, but. We didn't get a lot of looking at some players. We didn't, Musa Diabate didn't seem to play a lot today. He's such a tough, competitive kid. He kept the ball alive, got us a second shot rebound down there, and he's good on defense. He can cover anybody on defense, but we didn't see a lot of him. We talked about Hunter. That's one of his best offensive games he's ever played, because he obviously he scored so many points and he showed his 3-point step out. I was kind of frustrated with the way they were allowing Edey to just back down on Hunter. I played and coached, and you got to call that the same way. You got to give a guy in defense a chance. You just can't let the big offensive guy in the low block just back into the guy. And they called that a couple times on Michigan defenders, once or twice on Hunter, I think once on Diabate. But yeah, that was a little discouraging.
Yeah, well, who else would you take a look at here? Like, some of the stuff on you mentioned the matchup zone looked like they were doing a pretty good job. It can hurt them when you come down to rebounding because it's a tough spot. You're looking to block out an area, and Purdue knifed in there a few times and got some offensive rebounds. And the one part, Michigan didn't commit a foul. I mean, they were settling for. I would say settling. They especially with Hunter Dickinson was shooting from outside. I mean, there wasn't a foul called. Michigan, no free throws in the first half.
Yeah, that's you got to give Purdue some credit for that, and then maybe we didn't do enough to force that. But I thought Jones is playing fairly smart. Other than the 2 charges, he's handling the ball pretty good. He's getting us in pretty good positions. Brooks is kind of struggling, man. He starts the game with an air ball. Some turnovers, just not a lot out of Brooks today. I thought Caleb Houston he had a bad game defensively with some of our rotations. You got to take a good look at it and look at the film, and the coaches will point some things out. There were many times, and a lot of it I think you have to give credit. Purdue's coaching staff and their scheme, they do a lot of things with some of their motion and their screening and the problems they give you in man-to-man in their man offense, and Michigan had a tough time adjusting to that. I thought Houston he didn't have his best game on defense.
And they really need him. They're going to need him down the stretch. Sometimes when he shoots that ball, it looks pretty good when he's knocking them down from outside, and they're going to need more of that. You just look at the box score, and if people were, just listening to this and they didn't watch the game, of course, Hunter Dickinson's going to pop. He popped during the game, and certainly on the score. When you look at the box score here, 28 points, and 2 of 3 from downtown. You mentioned Devontae Jones. He had a pretty good game, 13 points. Caleb Houston ended up double figures with 11. You talked about Eli Brooks with the 9 points there, but the bench, Jace Howard, he just has the 1 point, but defensively he was all over the place. And you mentioned Diabate. I think that Diabate's a lot of time he's on that front end of that diamond press or whatever you want to call it, and Jace gave him a little spurt there, so I think Jace earned that time there in the second half, and they can get a little bit more, whether it's going to be Terrence Williams, whether it's going to be Brandon Johns, whether it's going to be Kobe Buffkin. I mean, they need somebody to come in there, and they need to find some scoring, from somewhere else.
Yeah, I've been saying this for a while. If I'm coaching that team, I'm going to have more Buffkin, less Williams, less Johns. I just think offensively he has more upside. He can finish at the rim. I think he's a better outside shooter. He's not as big and thick a kid, but that they still. He's playing a lot of Williams and a lot of Johns and probably the same amount of Buffkin. I'll tell you something I would do if I'm coaching that team also. I'm sorry, but Musa Diabate and Frankie Collins, you're not shooting 3-pointers. I'm sorry, but you're open for a reason. You're open for a reason. The opponent sees it. I wouldn't cover Frankie Collins at the 3-point line. I would not cover him. And I would not cover Musa Diabate at the 3-point line. I hate to say it. I know Juwan is, he recruited those kids, and you tell him, you're going to we're going to develop you. You develop your outside shot, get you ready for pro basketball and all this, but they're not ready now. And Frankie Collins is a liability shooting the ball from the perimeter, in my opinion. I just don't see it. I mean, he's a heck of a defensive kid. He's a great athlete. He finishes at the basket as good as anybody. But right now, I wouldn't have it. The kids call it. They call that self-check, Denny. You know what self-check means?
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes I'm outside and I hear the opponent say, "Hey, he's a self-check," and I'm like, "Wait, what's that mean?"
I hate to say it, but I think they got to know their. We get back to Clint Eastwood, man. A man has got to know his limitations, and I think that's just my thoughts on both of those players. If I'm putting my scouting report together on Michigan, I'm not covering either of them at the 3-point line.
Yeah, well, the stats bear that out. Their 3-point shooting individually, talking about Diabate and Frankie Collins. Neither of them, if you just look at the numbers, maybe it's a different story in practice, and that's always the tough part, man. If they're draining them in practice, and you say, hey, if you're in rhythm or something, but those shots, they need to pick some. They need to try some other. Frankie's a jet; he can drive and everything else, and Diabate can do almost everything else. So. Yeah, I mean, they've got things to work on when it comes down to that. Hey, Scar, before we go, two things. One, anything, that you want to say about the basketball team, but, it's been a few days since Wednesday, and, everybody wants to know, like, as far as you could determine, did, Jim Harbaugh turn down that offer to Minnesota, or was it Minnesota turning down Jim Harbaugh? I know you haven't just sat there, in your office there all week without talking with, other former players, whatever else. What have they said to you? What's your read on that? What's, what a former Michigan football player saying?
You just got to go with what he said. He gave some information to Mitch Albom, and we're all going on that. It indicated, Minnesota didn't offer it. It's crazy. I mean, I've been talking to some guys. I talked to a guy this morning I played with, and it's like, I just don't understand why, if I'm Jim Harbaugh in that situation, I'm not getting on that plane until we have knocked down every darn major topic on our Zoom call, whatever the hell it is, on the phone. I talk to all the key people before I get on that plane. That's just me. I don't understand how, he even bothered going there. Because it's just, I just would have did it. I would have had everything ironclad, knocked down, decided the main issues agreed upon. But he got there, and it probably, I'm sure, he's a smart guy, man. He got there. He probably thought everything was falling in place. And there was a few, because I've been in many interviews. I used to tell my assistant coaches to interview every year for head coaching jobs, just for experience. I used to interview all the time, and got offered many times different jobs. But you do it, and but he obviously, I think, wanted pro football. It's something he still wants. He said it, so it's real. He still had that dream, but he got there, and for whatever reason, it didn't go as smooth. And we got to go by what he said, man. That he just, they didn't offer him the job, so. That's what we're going to go by. And as far as I want to get over it and done with it, and let's get these guys going. We got a great offense coming back. We got to hire a great defensive coordinator, though, man. Let's see what he does. I'd like it to be just another guy who's going to run the same stuff we've done. Maybe it's Clinksdale, and we bring in another guy. I don't know what he's going to do, but it's a hugely important decision, just like it was with with Mike McDonald. But let's get it over and done, and bury it, and let's move on, because there's no doubt the enemy is going to use it in recruiting. There's no doubt.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter anymore. They could do anything they want. Recruiting. Michigan did pick up a recruit today, the running back White Lightning out of Dexter, Cole Cabana. So that didn't hurt him. And Harbaugh said that this was it, and he was done there. So hey, if you want to take him at his word there, I'll just go back. My final thought on it is, like, it doesn't really matter what happened out there in Minnesota. Maybe Jim, was thinking there was a little bit more, to the whole thing. To the verbal offer when he got on the plane. Maybe the Vikings were thinking a little bit something, and that probably played out when they sat down. Jim said they didn't match his enthusiasm, and things weren't matching up. Things, And you know what? When you're in a guy in Jim Harbaugh's position where you're sitting there with $70 million in your back pocket, you don't have to sit around. You could be confident and you can ask for what you want. And you know what? The Vikings, when they're sitting there, I don't like a meddling owner. If I'm hiring a general manager and he's bringing somebody in and this is the guy he wants, so all those different things in there and maybe too many cooks in the kitchen and all that. And, I can see how things can fall apart pretty quickly. But none of that matters, what matters is that he's back and that he said that, that was his last attempt, to do that. So I feel pretty good about that. Michigan fans should feel pretty good about it as well. All right, what about the basketball game? Any final thoughts here as Michigan loses to Purdue 82-76? If somebody was just walking in, Jim, turning on the video, and they said, you know what? Or listen to the podcast, skipping forward, and said, what's Scarcelli think of the game today? What are you going to tell them?
I thought we gave great effort. I thought we had our coaches are coaching hard. Our kids are playing hard. We needed to play a perfect game against Purdue. We needed a few less turnovers. We needed to make a few more shots, and we just didn't do it, man. Something to think about, though, is that Juwan is putting Williams in before Johns. That's interesting. Johns hardly played a little bit. I think he's decided on that. That we played the best team in the Big Ten. Ivy is rated, I think, the second or third best player in the country for the NBA draft for a reason. He showed that today. We saw it. We don't have a kid like that in our backcourt. We just got to recruit better players, or the guys we have, we need them to hang around and get more experience. Michigan's a good team. If they all come back and for another couple of years, there's a lot of talent there. But today just wasn't our day.
Well, and I would say, hey, make a couple more plays. And now this is, you lose to the number 4 team in the country and all the things that you just said, and you're in a 9.5 point underdog. Those things are, to be expected. But now that you start taking a look at it and you got 10 games to go, and you put yourself in a spot where, these are must-win games coming up. They got to go to Happy Valley on Tuesday. They've got to win that game. They've got to come back against Purdue on Thursday night, 9:00 tip at the Chrysler Center. They've got to beat Purdue, and that'll at least give them, you want to call it a signature win at home. It'll be a win against the top 5 team. And then Saturday, a week from today, they host Ohio State. They've got to win that game. So, because they're playing Ohio State twice, and whether they, unless they plan on going out to Columbus and beating them. So they got to win 3 games in a row here, I would say. So a big week for Michigan in the NCAA tournament. More than likely, they're going to have to win these 3 games if they want to put themselves in consideration for the NCAA tournament. So if you're a basketball fan, if you're a Michigan fan, hang on and know that, that's the news. They need 3 wins in a row here this week. If they want to, think about, putting themselves on the bubble.
Hey, I agree with you, Denny. We got to play, man. A lot of good stuff came out of today, though. Hunter's had an unbelievable offensive basketball game for Hunter Dickinson.
He's awesome.
He needs help, man. He needs a lot of help. Team's got to play better defense, smarter. We needed to play a perfect game, and we didn't get it done.
All right, good job. We look forward anytime in the next time to talk with you. So we look forward to that, Scar. Thanks for your time. Have a great Saturday.
Go Blue.
There he is, Jim Scarcelli. Final 82-76. Thanks for watching, listening.